Hello everyone, welcome back to Back2earth's Compost 101 crash course. Today's episode will cover finding your ideal compost bin. Now, the content in this episode is very closely related to the content from the previous episode, Types of Composting. So if you haven't had a chance, I encourage you to go check that one out. The choice of what type of composting you want to do and in which bin you want to do it are dependent on each other, as you'll come to better understand in this video. Choosing the compost bin best for you is based on several variables: how much space you have, how much time you can give, and how much money you are willing to spend. Don't worry though, we are here to help. So let's begin. The first compost bin we'll talk about is stationary plastic bin, essentially a plastic container of varying sizes. One benefit of these types of bins is that they don't break down over time since it's made of well plastic. Thing is, it can seem a bit counterintuitive to use plastic products in saving the planet like you are, so that is why we encourage you to purchase one made of recycled plastic. Another benefit is that when bought, there are usually very little, if any, assembly involved. Holes are already drilled in for ventilation, and there are pre-built access doors. These access doors easily open for you to turn your compost with a shovel. And these bins usually cost around $40 to $60, depending on their volume and their quality. Also known as tumblers, this second type of bin is also plastic, but it is set on metal feet so one can manually lever the compost. These facilitate the turning process. These usually require assembly but are relatively easy to build. However, you do have an easier time with turning your compost since you don't even have to open the pre-built access doors. The ease of rotation with already drilled ventilation holes allow for highly aerated compost. As a consequence, production of compost can take roughly about 5 to 7 weeks if nitrogen, carbon, and oxygen levels are carefully maintained. Like the first bin we talked about, the risk of odors in tumblers is low since it is an enclosed space and you're including brown material. The downside is that since it is an enclosed space with limited volume, you have to space out your disposals of food scraps. More specifically, you should add more every couple weeks to leave time for scraps already in the tumbler to break down. Like the stationary plastic bins, tumblers are typically around $40 to $60. The third kind of compost bin is made of wire or mesh and has to be inferiorly exposed to the ground. This is definitely your cheapest option in terms of compost bins, and it is very easy to set up. You will need bolt cutters to cut your mesh to the size you want. This type of bin is not the most appealing to the eye, but makes the aeration process the easiest since it is open on all sides. On the other hand, since it is open on all sides, the risk for smells is higher than for other types of compost bins. Unfortunately, a higher risk of smells means a higher risk of attracting pests. Lastly, we have a stationary wood bin, similar to a stationary plastic bin, in that it consists of sides and a removable cover to turn the compost. You can either buy these bins ready to assemble or build it yourself. If you do choose to buy one, they tend to cost anywhere from $100 to $300. If you go DIY, those old pieces of wood you have collecting dust in your garage, well, they could finally be put to use. If you don't already have wood, try to purchase sustainably harvested wood. This option is definitely the most aesthetically pleasing in one's backyard. However, it does require more space, so it is not suited for apartment living, especially because it needs to be exposed to the ground under it. If you choose to build it, you will have the advantage of total creative freedom, but it will require a number of tools, such as a saw, a drill, screws, and some woodworking skills, or maybe just a handy family member. In the end, however, you can decide which bin works best for you. Feel free to invent your own. There are no specific rules to a compost bin. You just need to be able to provide oxygen to your pile in some way. We hope that you make your composting process your own so that you enjoy it. Make it a family activity. Make it your moment alone after a long week. Whatever it comes to mean to you, make sure it brings you the joy of a job well done.